Hi everyone, it's John. Welcome back to my channel. I come to you today, as you can tell by the video title, with three things. A quick announcement, an even quicker disclaimer, and some books to show you from Princeton University Press that I picked up a couple of months ago. A couple of the books that I want to show you I've already talked about. One I've already reviewed. But I want to show you everything I requested from the Princeton Spring 2023 catalog, just to sort of show them, let you know that they're here, what they're about. And that sort of dovetails into the announcement, so you can take advantage of anything you see here, as well as absolutely anything on the Princeton University Press website. As of yesterday, through next Friday, May the 26th. They're having a 50% off discount sale. I made a post in the community section on my channel last night. It's the latest post I made there. Go feel free to check it out for details. 50% off all books, paperback and hardcover, ebooks and audiobooks. Something like 20,000 titles on every single subject under the sun you could possibly imagine. And all of these books and 20,000 others will be included in that sale through next Friday, May 26th. I will try to leave all the pertinent links and everything down below so you can go take advantage of that. The links and, like I said, the details are also in that post if you want to go check it out. The disclaimer, still caffeinating. The disclaimer is a question I've actually never been asked about, but I did want to get it out of the way in case anyone was curious. I talk a lot about Princeton University Press on this channel, and as I've said, no one's come out and directly asked me, but just in case anyone has ever wondered, I am not on anyone's payroll. I don't have a salary. They don't send me kickbacks. They don't send me proceeds. I get nothing from them aside from the occasional review copy that they send me. There are no monetary transactions going on whatsoever. The only money that ever changes ways is when I send them money for books that I can't get review copies of. And now that they're having a book sale for the next week and a half, I'm going to be sending them some more money. And I think you probably should too. But in case anyone might think that because I talk about them so often that I have some sort of formal connection with them, I do not. It is merely an informal connection, and one I like to talk about because they publish a lot of fascinating stuff. But in the interest of fairness, as you will see in a little bit, there is one book in this set I'm going to show you here that I recently read, and I have absolutely no qualms with telling you in my review, which I'll be posting in the next couple of weeks, that it was a completely mediocre book. And like I said, I'm always honest about things like that. So, with that out of the way, the announcement, the disclaimer, let's get to the books. So, one that I have already basically dedicated an entire video to. I haven't read it yet, so I haven't had a chance to review it, but I did want to send. They sent me 10 books. I requested 10 books from the Spring 2023 catalog that they released. 9 have appeared. The reason why I don't have the 10th one to show you is because it's not being published in the United States until July. So I probably won't get my review copy until sometime next month in June. But when it does arrive, I will show you. This is one you've seen, so I'm not going to spend any large amount of time on it. This is The Soviet Century, Archaeology of a Lost World by Karl Schlegel. And it is essentially a cultural, material history of the Soviet era from the rise of the Bolsheviks to the fall of communism. Told through a bunch of the culinary history, the famous Russian perfume Red Moscow, books, dozens of things. I haven't had too much time to look into it. Like I said in the video, I've read the first 10 or 20 pages, and it looks absolutely fascinating. I would love to be able to find the time to read it in Q4 when it's time era appropriate, but that's still a ways off. So here's one. Here's a book I've already posted a review of, and I'll try to leave the link for the Soviet century discussion post, as well as the review for this book, which I've already posted on this channel. This is Spin Dictators, The Changing Face of Tyranny in the 21st Century by Sergei Gergiev and Daniel Treisman. This is basically sort of a typological look at the changing face of dictatorship in the 20th century. Despite the title there, it's more about the change that happens in the tail end of the 20th century than it is the 21st. But if you're interested in that, again, I will leave a link. Now to the book that I was just talking a bit earlier, the one that was okay, interesting, but for reasons why I'll try to explain in the review, it was less than spectacular. This is Irrationality, A History of the Dark Side of Reason by Justin E.H. Smith. And I'll read you the inside material. Justin E.H. Smith is a professor of history and philosophy of science at the University of Paris, and has a couple of other books from Princeton, including The Philosopher, A History in Six Types. And I think he also came out with a book describing the downside of the internet. The title is escaping me. So here's the inside cover. It's a story we can't stop telling ourselves. Once humans were benighted by superstition and irrationality, but then the Greeks invented reason. Later, the Enlightenment enshrined rationality as the supreme value. Discovering that reason is the defining feature of our species, we named ourselves, quote-unquote, the rational animal. But is this flattering story itself rational? In this sweeping account of irrationality, from antiquity to today, from the 5th century BC murder of Hippasus, for revealing the existence of irrational numbers, to the rise of Twitter mobs and the election of Donald Trump, Justin Smith says the evidence suggests the opposite. From sex and music to religion and war, irrationality makes up the greater part of human life and history. So that's the beginning of the inside material there. And I will be posting a review within the next couple of weeks. I'm taking my sweet time and actually writing it. So I think these are the books I have not shown. I don't think I've shown the Irrationality one either. Here is, there are a few history of biology and sort of biology adjacent books, and this is the first one of those. This is the Machines of Evolution and the Scope of Meaning by Gary Tomlinson. It is one of those zone books that I have mentioned in passing. They are a sort of an outlet of Princeton University Press. All of the zone books as well are on sale there. So if there is a zone book title that you want, that 50% discount will apply. What is meaning? It's a loaded question. How does it arise? Where is it found in the world? In recent years, philosophers and scientists have answered these questions in different ways. Some see meaning as a uniquely human achievement. Others extend it to trees, microbes, and even to the bonding of DNA and RNA molecules. In this book, Gary Tomlinson defines a middle path, combining emergent thinking about evolution, new research on animal behaviors and theories of information and signs. Tomlinson tracks meaning far out into the animal world. At the same time, he discerns limits to its scope and identifies innumerable life forms, including many animals and all other organisms, that make no meanings at all. Tomlinson's map of meaning starts from signs, the fundamental units of reference or awareness. Where signs are at work, they shape meaning. Sorry, the background is kind of interfering with my ability to read the text smoothly. Where signs are at work, they shape meaning-laden lifeways. Meaning-laden lifeways, offering possibilities for distinctive organism niche interactions, and sometimes leading to technology and culture. The emergence of meaning does not, however, monopolize complexity in the living world. Countless organisms generate awe-inspiring behavioral intricacies without meaning. The machines of evolution in the scope of meaning offers a reevaluation of both meaning and meaninglessness, uncovering a foundational difference in animal solutions to the hard problem of life. This is another biology history in the form of a biography, actually. This is James T. Costa's Radical by Nature, The Revolutionary Life of Alfred Russel Wallace. You probably know this anyway, but just in case you don't, Alfred Russel Wallace was the contemporary of Charles Darwin, who basically, within a matter of months or maybe a small handful of years, discovered evolution, the working mechanism of evolution, at the same time Darwin did. And they were later in correspondence with one another, but Darwin's discovery of Wallace's idea really pushed him to publish his own ideas in more of an expeditious manner, because he realized that if Russell got there first, well, his name would probably not go down in the history books. I don't know if that was the complete motivation there, but it probably had a small part to do with it at least. Alfred Russel Wallace, 1823 to 1913, nice long life, was perhaps the most famed naturalist of the Victorian age. His expeditions to remote Amazonia and Southeast Asia were the stuff of legend. A collector of thousands of species new to science, he shared in the discovery of natural selection and founded the discipline of evolutionary biogeography. Radical by Nature tells the story of Wallace's epic life and achievements, from his stellar rise from humble origins to his complicated friendship with Charles Darwin and other leading scientific lights of Britain, to his devotion to social causes and movements that threatened to alienate him from scientific society. James Costa draws on letters, notebooks, and journals to provide a multifaceted account of a revolutionary life in science, as well as Wallace's family life. I would hope so in a biography. He shows how the self-taught Wallace doggedly pursued bold, even radical ideas that caused a seismic shift in the natural sciences, and how he courted controversy with non-scientific pursuits such as spiritualism and socialism. Costa describes Wallace's courageous social advocacy of women's rights, labor reform, and other important issues. He also sheds light on Wallace's complex relationship with Darwin, describing how Wallace graciously applauded his friend and rival, becoming one of his most ardent defenders. So, like I said, I think most people who watch this channel will probably already know who Wallace is. What I could tell you about him fits in a thimble, but hopefully that will, this book will be somewhat of a corrective to that. Would be a great book for, let's see when he was born. Yes, 1823, so it also fits into quarter 4 if anyone's interested in the history of science for Historathon. This is something I was interested in. I know of Rodney Stark as a historian of and sociologist of religion. This is, I think, maybe one of the... Okay, it's not one of the last books he published before he died, I don't think. This is showing in the inside material, 1996, but I think they recently republished it. This is The Rise of Christianity A Sociologist Reconsiders History by Rodney Stark. Rodney Stark recently passed away within the past couple of years. And this is kind of a book that distills some of the lessons that he learned from a lifetime of studying the sociology and history of religion through the ages. How did a tiny messianic group from the edge of the Roman Empire become a dominant faith of Western civilization? In this provocative and highly readable book, acclaimed sociologist of religion Rodney Stark challenges conventional wisdom by finding that Christianity succeeded because it offered a better, more secure way of life to its followers. Digging deep into the historical evidence and drawing on insights about the appeal of contemporary religion, this classic book shows that early Christianity attracted the privileged rather than the poor, that most early converts were, this classic book shows that early Christianity attracted the privileged rather than the poor, and that most early converts were women or marginalized Jews. The result is a vivid, they're all multifaceted, aren't they? And original account of the rise of Christianity. So I don't know the degree to which he's going to be sort of mixing what he's learned, like distilled lessons, with maybe the history of his own life, or it's sort of a standing book all of its own. I thought this was kind of a summation of a career book, but it might be more of an argument, self-contained. But we'll see when I get there. And I think, let's see, I may have shown a couple of these, but I'll just really quickly. This is, I took way too much math in undergrad school, way too much math. So one of my standing interests is mathematics. I'm not a mathematician by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have several semesters of calculus and linear algebra and differential equations and real analysis under my belt. So I love stuff like this. This is, Julian Havel is, well, I wanted to say a popularizer of mathematical writing, but this is going to be probably of limited interest to a more general population, because I'll show you the inside of the book in a second, and because of the level of math that some of it has, it's a bit high for some people. But this is The Irrationals, a story of the numbers you can't count on, with the clever, I think most people will recognize this, and fewer people will recognize the E and the phi there. This is an important number in logarithmic exponential growth, and this number here, phi, is the golden ratio, which in itself has had small libraries of books written about it, as well as pi too. But as you could, let me sort of, this is some higher level stuff. So, and not every page looks like that, but there's enough of it to put some people off. But I love, so it's going to take me a while to work through this, because it is jam-packed with equations that I'm going to need to stop and understand. But it's not exactly a leisurely reading experience, but it will be informative. And the concept of an irrational number, which, by the way, is defined as a number that you can't make a fraction out of, right? So pi, there are no two integers in fraction form, numerator over denominator, that equal pi. You can get some really close approximations, like 22 over 7, but it's only an approximation. The square root of 2 is another one, e is another one, phi is another. So it's just a book about those numbers. 3 more. This is Joshua L. Chernis's Liberalism in Dark Times, The Liberal Ethos in the 20th Century. And the back says, a timely defense of liberalism that draws vital lessons from its greatest mid-century proponents. And some of these greatest mid-century proponents also just happen to be some of my favorite thinkers of the 20th century. So it automatically struck my interest. Today, liberalism faces threats from across the political spectrum. While right-wing populists and leftist purists violate liberal norms, theorists of liberalism seem to have little to say. In Liberalism in Dark Times, Joshua Chernis issues a rousing defense of the liberal tradition, drawing on a neglected strand of liberal thought. Building on the works of Max Weber, Raymond Aron, Albert Camus, Reinhold Niebuhr, and Isaiah Berlin, Chernis urges us to imagine liberalism not as a set of policies, but as a temperament or disposition, one marked by openness to complexity, willingness to acknowledge uncertainty, tolerance for difference, and resistance to ruthlessness. In the face of rising political fanaticism, he argues for the continuing importance of the liberal ethos. So that looked fascinating as well. Again, great for the fourth quarter of Historathon 2023. This is an essay by Anne Carson, who was a Canadian poet. It is, I want to say, originally published in the 80s, but Anne Carson is a classicist and a bit of a philologist too. I guess to some small degree you have to be a philologist to be much of a classicist. But this is an inspection of an analysis of this concept of love, eros the bittersweet, being a kind of double-edged thing. It is sweet, enjoyable, pleasurable, lovely, but it also has a bitter twinge to it, like, for example, when you lose someone you love. And it is a short essay, on the order of 180 pages or so, about that duality, that tension that lies in the concept of eros. And I didn't know too much about Anne Carson, but this is one of her better known pieces. It is not a collection of poetry, despite the fact that Anne Carson is a poet. It is, like I said, an essay. And last, but not least, well, it might be, but I'm just mentioning it last. I'll let you know when I read it. This is Florian Fuchs' Civil Storytelling, The Rise of Short Forms and the Agency of Literature. Another Zone book. See if I can make out the text against the background here. Why did short narrative forms, like the novella, fable, and fairy tale, suddenly emerge around 1800 as genres symptomatic of literature's role in life and society? I automatically have a question there because fables are a lot older than 200 years old. 220 years old, but fables go back all the way to ancient Greece and further. So, anyway, let's just let it ride and go with it. In order to explain their rapid ascent to such importance, Florian Fuchs identifies an essential role of literature, a role traditionally performed within classic civil discourse of storytelling, by looking at new or updated forms of this civic practice in modernity. Fuchs's focus on in this groundbreaking book is one on the fate of topical speech, on what is exchanged between participants in argument or conversation as opposed to rhetorical speech, which emanates from and ensures political authority. He shows how after the decline of the ars topica in the 18th century, various forms of literary speech took up the role of topical speech that Aristotle had originally defended. Thus, this book outlines a genealogy of various literary short forms, from fable, fairy tale, and novella to 21st century video storytelling, that attempted to on both high and low levels of culture to exercise again the social function of topical speech. Some of the specific texts analyzed included the novellas of Theodore Storm and the novella-like Lettres de Cachet, proverbial fictions of Gustave Flaubert and Gottfried Keller, the fairy tale as rediscovered by Vladimir Propp and Walter Benjamin, the epiphanies of James Joyce, and the video narratives of someone I'm completely unfamiliar with by the name of Hito Steyerl, Hitosteyrel. But the rise of short narrative literary forms and their importance in civic culture. Fascinating stuff. So that wraps up what I wanted to show you today. I will be back with a couple of things to look forward to maybe in the future. I still have not shown a single book that I purchased from the February Princeton University Press sale. I got something on the order of 22 or 24 of them. I'm thinking about whether I want to break it up in 2 or 3 parts, but it's much too much to show in one video. And I really need to show them soon because we're going on 3 months since the sale and I haven't shown you a single one. Again, these are just review copies that were sent to me gratis. But I will leave you for now. Also a couple of things coming up. Some reviews. And hopefully on Friday I can find time to post a Friday Reads video. My first in a few months. But other than that, I will see you soon. And I'll bid you farewell for now. Bye.